Is the real secret to this deck the idea that you can use a non-committal Lux for value? A very, very common bait in deck building terms is basically the idea of cards that are actually peaking in value when you are using them in kind of like not a full deck builds. But a common bait is like people wanting to build around them fully. There's many, many good examples of that in this game. Let's say Teemo. Teemo is actually a fairly competitive card if you just splash him in an aggro deck, but the more you build around him, the worse he gets. And there's a lot of examples like that, right? Fey Blade Twirler is probably an example of that. I think Lux, Fiora is probably an example of that too. Lux is definitely there. The question becomes like how much do you want to go out of your way to enable her? I think that Lux could easily be a 2 of. I don't know if Shen can be a 2 of. You can definitely run all three. Because Fiora does hit for good value in this deck. And Lux is not, especially as a card that, especially because we're building around her even less, she's not really something you want to be double drawing late game. I kind of want to get out of Remembrance. So Lux going down to 2 and putting in 1 Fiora I think is actually a pretty good option. Like, for example, double drawing Fiora feels pretty good. Because having a repost when you have Fiora on the board is actually nice. You know, you're kind of, it is sort of the same thing. You're protecting Fiora by using Fiora, but you're preserving her level up condition. And you're, you know, getting the 3 attack out of this and swinging board trades. Like that's nice. Double drawing multiple Shens. By the way, double drawing multiple Shens feels good. Having a Stand United while you have a Shen on the board is fucking great. That's amazing. So I'm very happy to be in 3 Shens here. Right? Let's try this. I want to keep it a Shen deck. Shen is still the biggest build around. Stand United is the heart of this deck. Yeah. The heart of this deck is Shen, Stand United, and the Green Glade Caretaker. That's kind of the idea. You're getting close to Bannerman. I know, dude. I know. That, like, trust me. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling the Bannerman pressure. You have Bannerman Tunnel Vision? Listen, I'm doing the opposite. This could have been a Bannerman deck, but I have no Bannerman in it. This is the opposite. I'm making sure I don't turn this into a Bannerman deck. Bannerman is a hard gravity to escape. We're orbiting Bannerman, it's sucking us in. There's a lot of gravity in Bannerman. High gravity is what we call convergence in deck building. It's like keep in mind like the old Shadow Isles problem. Like a month or 2 ago, we had a situation where like every deck just kind of started turning into Shadow Isles. Once you add like the first Shadow Isles card, it's like a gateway drug, right? It's like you really want this Shadow Isles card to be the best one. Demacia doesn't have as much pull. It's not taking over every deck in the same way, but it is taking over every mid-range deck. And Bannerman definitely has the pull as opposed to Demacia in the entire region, right?
Always 2 steps ahead. Silent as death. For the honor run.
Now you're just thinking too much in terms of Bannerman playstyle and trying to make the deck conform more and more to that. I mean, I don't think that's what I'm doing. It's not. I can't invalidate your hypothesis. It could be, right? But it's a mid-range deck, and I don't think that Insiders are really carrying the deck at all. I mean, Insiders are flex slots. Persuaders are, I don't think, gonna be super valuable either. I don't think. I think Persuaders are definitely flex slots. I haven't taken out anything that's disrupting the core of the deck. Honestly, I kind of want to just tank this and just open attack with my Shen Fiora, really.
2 worlds.
That looks good.
Balance.
Why don't you run Judgment? I don't really like Judgment very much as a main deck card. I don't think it's a powerful card, and I think it doesn't really have synergy with Fiora. This also isn't a Fiora deck. We're running 1 Fiora for kind of like, sort of like an optional early game pressure tool. It's good in spots like this, basically. It's not really going to be a sick card in general, though. Persuader seems like a value card in this deck. 2 mana 3/2 that can become a bomb. I think it has too hard of a time doing that. Judgment has great synergy with Chevalier and River Shaper, though. I mean, I think I disagree with that. I don't think Judgment has synergy with those cards or Fiora. In reality, you're not seeking to top-end value with Judgment. Like, Judgment is already a board swing, basically, like, almost auto-win condition when it happens. With Judgment, you want to secure Judgment happening at all, which those cards don't really help you with. Like, for example, I mean, Judgment's good with, like, Deny. That's a good combo with Judgment. Or cards that play around stuff like, I don't know, Brittle Steel. Not really in the meta right now, but I mean, there's plenty of other examples. I mean, those cards, if anything, their 1 health means they're countered by, like, Vile Feast, so you have to overprotect them with Judgment. I think those cards are very anti-synergistic with Judgment.
Silent as death.
I've had a few friends try to turn this into a similar style because they want to play into Shen support. I kept it more control, both are viable. Persuader was amazing. I don't know. I feel like Persuader's, it's a bit of a tempo option. It's definitely less flexible than something like Insider. It's not impossible that I could be at the point of adding it back in. That's just not where we're feeling right now. I mean, Fear is a pretty major threat here. I think it's very, very possible this deck could optimize at 3 champions. For sure. Yeah, if he attacks with his other Shadow Assassin, that would have been, well, I guess it wouldn't have worked, right? Because I would designate a blocker, and then I would stand united, and then the blocker would go back to the bench, and then Fiora wouldn't be able to reblock. I don't know, it's a pretty committal stand united, just to keep the Fiora up. I don't know if I want to make that commitment, actually. It's a really, really committal stand united. Like, it's such a value tool later. I don't think we can really power him down, though. I'll take it.
We walk between realms.
I'll take it. Any updates to your tier list? Yeah, of course. I mean, we did a full update for the Meta Mondays. Basically, Kinko Elusives is a little bit down. Karma Ezreal is up. Karina is pretty expectedly just staying in tier 2. It's a sick draw. So the scare card is going to be Vengeance. I'm going to draw Can Break Vengeance. So if we do something like this, if he takes the Vengeance, then we can switch the Fiora with the Shadow Assassin. I mean, his scary tools are going to be at fast speed with the exception of Ruination. I'm not really good against Ruination.
The balance has been maintained.
If you're playing without Mage Seekers, consider tossing out Remembrance for Radiant. Could be. Wow, he didn't block with a Shadow Assassin. He's playing around the other stand united. I mean, with the Grasp here, it seems impossible to try to keep the Fiora win condition alive. It seems really undoable. I mean, I can do a lot of damage. Stand united. It's still gonna kill. It's still gonna kill the Thresh because the Shadow Assassin will get the buff. It's a good bit of damage. Stand united is kind of like a bit of a win condition here. You're a champion for that. Just have to chill. It's too silly to not be chilling here. Remember, guys, the fundamental concept of this deck isn't tied to its play pattern, right? It doesn't really matter whether it's running. It's not like the deck doesn't become the deck anymore if it cuts Insider, or I think even Persuader. The concept of this deck is it needs to be able to beat both Bannerman and Karma Ezreal. That's the only thing that matters. Now, obviously, the ability to beat Karma and Ezreal is going to be tied to, you know, your play patterns. But that's how we evaluate things. It's like, am I weakening my matchup against those? If not, then the changes are fine. I like that train of thought. And this is what I was explaining before. Like, the idea of deck building, you have to... It's backwards induction, right? That's what they call it. The idea of starting with the finish line. You have to look at the finish line. Every deck is entirely a function of its matchup tables, period. You are looking to deck build with a problem-solving perspective. Your deck is performing a function. Its function is its matchup tables. That is what a deck fundamentally is, right? You start with the matchup tables. Every decision starts with matchup tables. Especially when you're trying to make kind of like an anti-meta deck, right? I mean, this is a fine stand united, I think. This one's, they're both at 0 out of 6.
The Kinku goes where they are needed.
So basically this looks good. And then we'll open with like Bright Steel formation into it. 100%, that's the only reason I hit 16 with this on ladder. It was just built to go into Karina and Bannerman. I mean, the idea right now is that Ezreal, Karma, and Bannerman are basically pincering the ladder, right? That's the idea. Because Ezreal Karma only loses to Bannerman, or sorry, Ezreal Karma only loses to like aggro, really. And Bannerman is a deck that can basically always beat any form of aggro deck. Typically. I mean, sometimes Burn can do decently against them, but it doesn't feel good enough, right? Yeah, that's a little vulnerable. I don't know, it feels like with this hand, when we're kind of like low on tricks, it's kind of hard to not take that attack. And it's not like the most vulnerable thing ever. I do wish we had the double remembrance here. And by the way, this is definitely a value aspect of remembrance. It's something that, I mean, is not necessarily tied to this specific deck, but the ability to play into Ruination. There's a lot of board states where I can double Remembrance after Ruination and be fine. I think Ruination is a fairly undervalued card for that reason. Let's go ahead and stop this lifesteal.
Got your back.
Looks like we're good here. And this is why I think you can cut out Remembrance, and I don't think I need the Mage Seeker Persuader. And I don't think I need, well, really anything.
My spirit is an unquenchable fire.
I don't like the phrase backwards induction. It sounds like a fancy way to say deduction. And what you mean is more like regular induction. Well, it's a thing in game theory. It's not the same as deduction. I don't think so. I think that's true in like if you're using the definition that you would use in philosophy. But backwards induction is its own thing in game theory. We just want to go wide here, basically. Kind of wish I could play Lancer and Vanguard. Kind of sad that we can't. Man. I mean, Vanguard is just better. Kind of has to be. His attack is really devalued here. I think I have to play Protector here as well. I just need to open attack with the two Vanguards pulling at the end. Even if he has Withering Wail, we can break Withering Wail, right? Breaking Wail, oh no, we can't against Karma, right? Yeah, I mean, I think we're kind of no good here. Like, after the Karma flips, you're pretty screwed. It's like, can we break Grasp? I think we can break Grasp, right? Because of the single combat draw. He goes into Grasp with a Lancer, single combated away. We can't break Grasp. What the hell are we good against here, man? I mean, his Ruination isn't really threatening. I think we have to develop here. Why not? We've got our full hands. I think we lost. All his scare cards are fast speed. This doesn't really play into Ruination, because I actually get a good enough redevelop. So I have to play it. But yeah, I think we lost. Wow. I wonder what he's got here. So yeah, I mean, I just redevelop. I've got the Princess up to 2 of these, so that should be enough, right? I don't think, by the way, I think we can escape the Bannerman gravity. And it is, you should think about it in the form of, I would say, a very literal gravity. That's a sick hit.
Remember the fallen.
I mean, his Karma is down. Off of that Ruination, he might have a second one, possibly. I think I can't attack here, which is really sad. Yeah, I super can't attack here. Saw 2. Ruinations, yeah. Draws good. I don't know. It's possible our first Bright Steel formation was in this play. So basically, when he goes into attack, I'll do a Ghost block with single combat on the Thresh, which has to be Redeemer. That's the only thing that'll die to the Thresh single combat, which means I want to block the Thresh with Shen. Shen gives me the option, sure.
The eye of
I don't know, I'm looking
twilight
okay
sees
here.
all.
This guy's smart. He's well, I guess you would do that even if you weren't really thinking about it. But the Redeemer was the only way for me to stop this lifesteal from going through. I needed to block with it and then sacrifice it to Thresh. Man, if only Vanguard Lookout had less stats. Fuck, why is he so chonky, dude? Why does he have 4 health? Ah, Jesus. I mean, I probably can't even clock him next turn, can I? I don't think so. So he's up to 13. I can kill the Thresh now. Oh, he's not passing. He's got Highwayman, a man after my own heart. Okay, so I think I just Shen Challenger the Emerald Awakener. I might want to kill the Thresh now. It might be at its own... I've seen 2 missed call already. It's a little vulnerable to missed call killing the Thresh now. Also, keeping single combat a bit more flexible is kind of nice. Deny is a big option. Deny gets mega bricked if I take it now. I've got to do it. I've got to take it now, dude. Deny gets mega bricked. And Deny is like an actual card that's all over his range. It's all over his range. I've played like no deniable spells except for Remembrances when he was tapped out Deny after Ruinations. Like, it is definitely on a brick to Deny here. I have to take it. I have to take it. That's a shit draw considering he's almost certainly on a Deny.
Enforce
equilibrium. Oh well. These attacks. God, fucking Vanguard Lookout. Throw it in. Okay, sure. So, a likely thing is Whale or Vile Feast to pop the barrier and get the lifesteal, and I'll have to single combat when that happens, and that'll give him the Deny that I can't stop. It's always going to be Deny value here. It's, like, the odds of him having Deny are literally like 85-90% right now. They're really high. They're incredibly high. Probably closer to 85. 90 is unrealistic. But I have to take this. I'm never going to get, like, even that 15% chance I just have to take right now. It's not like I'm giving him value by playing the Deny. He's not going to tap out. I mean, if he's on a Deny, I'm really happy. So I can afford... Yeah, well, it's probably worth it. I think it's closer than you guys think. You guys are saying this is like a snap. I think it is actually closer than you guys think. I do have to do it though, I think. It's really close. It's really close. It's just like, in the situations where he has Deny, we're happy enough anyway. If he taps out under Deny, so like let's say he plays a Rekindler here. Wow, I do think that was a misplay actually. I think, no, Rekindler top deck, I think that was a misplay. I think we weren't supposed to single combat there. Because if he Rekindlers here, that's kind of the scare card, and we can get it under Deny against the Rekindler. That was definitely a misplay, 100%. Because Rekindlers are a lose condition. I mean, we're usually good here. It's pretty hard for him to break this. I'll play around the 3rd Ruination, which is actually something that could happen here. You want to be buffing the small one to diversify? That's good. Hard for him to stay alive here. Play around like Rekindler or Karma top decks, basically. So we can disjoint the Vengeance effectively. Or I can just swap the 2 that are already there. I mean, I guess it's more damage if I swap these 2. But it's more long-term power if I keep the Shen alive. I mean, I just go for the damage now.
We walk between realms.
I'm way too scared of his top deck like Rekindler or Karma. I'm a lot more scared of that than I am of, I don't know, something like Grasp. Grasp would be like if he grasps here, he's alive for a turn. But if his top deck was Grasp instead of Rekindler Karma, then I kill him next turn. We have to assume his top deck was Rekindler Karma, and we have to go for the kill this time. It's too important. Is Disjointing Vengeance real? Yeah, when you use Stand United, it swaps any target that's on the stack for that card. It swaps any target. Whale, and yeah, Whale's the same as Grasp, which is that if he top decked Whale, I feel okay, right? Like, he will survive for a turn, but that means his card wasn't Karma Vengeance, which is the important thing. So the reason why playing that single combat there was wrong, I'll explain it. It's the way you have to think about late game positions. The way you have to think about late game positions, which is effectively, if you're in a secure board, assume the worst, right? It's like the odds of his right card on his hand in that spot where we went in for the single combat being denied are literally, if it's 85% plus. It might be higher than that. He's on a version of the deck that runs at least 2 denies. He has some choked up cards in his hand, and we haven't given him a deny target in literally like basically since the game started. Basically since the game started, right? There's fairly few cards those can really be at that point of the game. It's probably closer to 80% than 85. 85 is probably a bit of an exaggeration. But it's really, really likely it's deny. And the problem is, if his card is deny, I end up being a little bit happy there. That was my logic. My logic was kind of the same as the Grasp of Whale on the last play, which is, if his card is deny, that means I'm kind of fine either way, because his deny is not hitting huge value. It has the deny on the combat, but the combat isn't a board swing value. Whereas if his card is something like Rekindler, you know, which it could have been second Rekindler in that spot. I think it's pretty unlikely. Could have been something like, he could have been holding onto a whale. There's just not a lot that could have been. But the problem is, if his card is deny and his top deck is Rekindler, that gives us a whole new lose condition, which is the way we lose that game is getting outvalued by a Rekindler top deck. And when you think about it like that, by using single combat there, I'm opening myself to lose the game. Because he can't put my card on anything, I just top decked it. So if his top deck was Rekindler, if I let that combat go through, he'll play Rekindler, tap down to 3, and then I can single combat and kill the karma when he can't deny it. And that's really important, because that's the way we lose that game if he had just top decked Rekindler there. So that's why that was a misplay.